Blessed Day Reflection by Abia listeners. My name is Abia Grant, and we are here to reflect on our life journey. We will be discussing topics related to self awareness, self improvement, and mental health. Also, the purpose of this safe space is for us to be free to discuss the ups and downs, celebrate the wins, and talk about ways to improve the lows. So, welcome to this podcast, and I hope you gain something from this time we share together. Hey guys, how you doing? It is your girl Abia Grant. Welcome back to another episode of Reflection by Abia. I hope everyone is doing well and having a blessed day at the time of listening to this. If you're not having the best day, then that it's okay. You know, those days it happens and everything. Just remember things are always going to get better. So just keep that in mind. Well, welcome back to the episode, guys. I just want to first, stop and say thank you guys for listening to the episode. Um, I see people watching it on YouTube. I see people watching it on Spotify. Unfortunately, I don't really check out like Apple or Amazon. I think my podcast is on, which I'm going to do better. I am going to be checking the other locations that my podcast is broadcasting to. But I just want to say thank you guys for listening to last week's episode and giving it a chance. The podcast is definitely changing. I want to make it more of a information based, outside of just me regularly talking about, things that's going on with me. And, hopefully what I'm bringing to you guys that you understand what I'm saying. In addition to that, it's helpful for whatever that you may be going through at that time, or maybe just information to hold on to for later on in life, or maybe you're sharing information with somebody else. Um, Definitely, like that is the purpose of this podcast is to, again, as I've, said in many other podcasts, is to help people. That is the goal. So I just want to say thank you guys for listening to my episodes and supporting me through all the ups and downs and everything. But guys, I am doing well. Just to let you know, I'm not gonna, talk much about myself for too long about myself, but I'm doing well. We are in good spirits. So let's go ahead and jump into this podcast episode. So last week, guys, as you know, if you listen to the podcast, I was speaking in regards into mental health. I was specifically speaking about cognitive health, and please don't mind, you may hear pages turn and things like that because I have a lot of notes and I just want to make sure that, we are saying the right information and I'm able to reference exactly what we went over last week. Now, I do have to pause for a second. This is episode number 19 of the podcast. This is part two of us discussing about mental health. So, like I said last week, I had spoke in regards into cognitive health, and I told you guys this week we're going to be speaking about emotional health. Now, the reason why I'm breaking this down is that, as I had mentioned last week, there are three different components of mental health. So, one of them being cognitive health, other one being emotional health, and then the last one being behavioral health. So, we're going to be speaking about emotional health and how that is factored into our stress, our depression, our anxiety, because that is the main focus of the podcast, just in general, is to be able to understand what exactly is going on and finding tools in order to help us live a better life and better understand what is going on. So, I am a definition type of girl. I'm the kind of person where I have to break everything down to better understand it. I hope again that is useful for you because I feel like we can't just jump right into, okay, this is this information without really having the background information on it. So that's, you know, pretty much what I'm going to be bringing to you in this part two of the episode, similar to part number one. So, what I looked at is pretty much what does emotions mean? Okay, because a lot of people say, I'm feeling emotional, or this thing impacted me and my emotions was this particular way. So emotions is how we feel. Okay. They are basically our conscious mental reactions. These are things that, we are aware of that is happening to us. And then our feelings in the inside sometimes internally gets, how can I say, projected outwards. I feel like also at the same time, depending on the person, you may hold on to your emotions internally, and I feel that when you hold on to your emotions internally, especially if it is a negative emotion, this part of it kind of dives into the whole being stressful, being depressed, having anxiety. So I just want you to guys to hold on to that piece of information. So what is health? So health is being sound in the body, mind, and spirit. Same information as last week. So then I said, okay, what are the eight primary emotions that people have? Because I just want to be able to further understand, like, is emotions only negative or is there positive emotions? So I said, what's the eight primary emotions? So what I jotted down here is that there are joy, trust, anticipation, surprise, anger, sadness, disgust, and fear. Okay. So I was like, all right, that makes sense that emotions could be positive, emotions can be a negative. Not necessarily if you are emotional doesn't mean that a bad situation is happening to you. There could be a positive situation of joy that you are experiencing. I will hope that if you are experiencing that joy, that you are expressing that, outwards to your surrounding environment. I feel that is very important. At the same time, also I feel it's very important with their negative emotions as well too, because it's like you want to have that outward release of stress or anxiety so that one, you're not holding on to those feelings. As well, in addition to that, you're able to get the help that you need, because a lot of times it's like, I will hope that if you are showcasing a negative emotions, your people who are in your surroundings are going to want to help you get through how you're feeling. That's when we like to lean on to our community, meaning our friends, our family, and so forth. This is why, community is so important for when we are going through these different type of experiences. So being like solo and not having any type of support system, I understand that can be people's circumstances. However, I feel like it's very important to try to create bonds with people so that when you are going through these life experiences outside of just emotions, but just anything in general, that you have a community of people that can be there for you when you are going through those type of things. Last week I had spoke about, kind of like three components of emotional health, and then I was like, okay, this week I want to break that down further so I could better understand what emotional health consists of. So the first one I have is subjective experience. So I said, okay, what does subjective mean? So when I looked at subjective, basically it states your personal feelings and beliefs. Okay. So then I said, okay, the next one was a physiological experience. Now I'm going to get to what experience means in a minute, but I'm focusing on the first part of the component. So we have here physiological experience. So physiological is how the body works to maintain a stable environment internally. Then I have the last one here as behavior slash expressive experience. So your behavior is your interaction with your surroundings, and expressive is your feelings, your intentions, and pretty much what you make known to others. Okay. Now, I have here also your responses, but we're going to get into that in a second. I want to go ahead and look at what experience means. So, experience means something you have done or lived through. So, when you look at subjective experience, it's your personal feelings or beliefs for something that you have done or been through. Your physiological experience is how the body works to maintain a stable environment internally with something you have done or lived through. Then behavior slash expressive experiences is an interaction with your surroundings or your feelings or your intentions with something you have done or lived through. So when you start to really break this down, you start to really understand, okay, what this actually means. This means like all the things that embody your emotions, all the factors that may impact you, how your body performs, how you're able to maintain a stable, just internal ambiance, and meaning like you're zen. You know what I mean? Like if you're not zen, then that's just going to negatively impact your surroundings. That's going to negatively impact what was done to you or what situation that you may have been in. Obviously, this impacts your feelings, how you may express your dislike to whoever or what you may do, again, which is expressive of whatever impacted you. So your emotional health is very valid. It's a part of who we are as a human being. It's not something that you could just run away from. Like I feel like no matter who the person is, you're going to have emotional experiences. You're going to have emotional health. Now, that emotional health, I don't know if I would necessarily in a negative way say that is should be health. I would say your emotional I don't want to say response, but your emotional triggers or something like that. That is kind of, what I would relate to your negative experiences, because as we know, health just means that you're sound in your body, mind, and spirit. So if you're not emotionally satisfied, if you're dealing with triggers, if you're dealing with negative experiences, then that means that your emotional health is not doing very well. Let's go ahead and get into response. So, response is just a short little definition that I jotted down here. That is your reaction to the situation. So, meaning like, okay, if someone was to negative, if a good experience. Let's talk about a good experience, right? So let's say you are in a restaurant and you drop something on the floor, right? And you pick something, another person picks something up, pick that item up for you. I apologize, getting a little bit tongue tied. That's such an a positive experience. You're going to showcase emotional gratification. You're going to showcase joy. You're going to showcase uh, 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 liking the particular situation. So your reaction or your response to the situation is going to be thank you. Your response to the situation may be you starting a conversation with that person. That's a positive conversation. Your response may be you're just smiling at the person as if you're saying thank you, but you're saying thank you uh, uh, um, through your facial expressions. So when your responses again are your reaction towards the situation. So now let's say, for instance, something that happened to me the other day. I was at the train and I was standing in front of the door waiting for the doors to open to board the train, and then the person stepped right in front of me. So guess what my response was? My response was me rolling my eyes. My response was a negative reaction, a negative emotion because this person has stepped in front of me, you know? So, but at the same time, I feel like with your emotional health, sometimes you also at the same time can choose whether you want it to be triggered or not to be triggered. And I think through the different type of therapies and treatments that I'm going to be talking about later on in this episode, you will kind of be able to learn how to use some of these tools in order to deal with the situation that you may be going through or how your emotions may be feeling at that time. Let's go ahead and take a quick break. Hey everyone, thank you for tuning into Reflection by Abia. Feel free to check out the podcast Instagram page and my personal page, simply.abia, also on Instagram. The links will be available in the show notes, so let's get back to the podcast. So, what happens when your emotional health declines? All right, so I kind of looked at the side of it about your mood because I feel like your mood is such a major factor that is influence to how you may feel, whether you have stress, whether you have depression, whether you have anxiety. So what I did is I jotted down a few mood changes that you may see when experiencing stress, depression, or anxiety. So I have here, for example, you may feel lonely, you may feel depressed, you may feel unworthy, you may feel hopeless, or you may feel irritable. Now, some other declines that you may see is that when you are experiencing negative emotional health, a lot of times this happened with me, with my own anxiety and stress, is that I couldn't sleep. My my sleep was me waking up almost 2, maybe 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and then not being able to sleep the whole day or the whole morning because my mind is consistently on and I would not be able to fall asleep because I'm thinking about whatever has to get done or whatever may be causing me anxiety. My performance started to decline. That's one of the other things that normally factors into your, negative emotional health. Is that whatever you're putting yourself into, whatever you're trying to achieve, you will see that it's not positively working out in the best way because your emotional health is not in the right space. A lot of times is that we are reacting and performing based on our emotions. So how we supposed to have this situation turn out positively when we're in a negative space? You see what I'm saying? Also, another factor that I see often with a lot of people is eating. Your emotional health, sometimes you may eat obsessively where food has then become comfort to you, and or you may stop eating because your mind is just un how can I say, your mind is racing that your body actually doesn't want to eat anymore. It does not feel like you're hungry. And there's other reasons of why this happens as well too, in which we're about to get into that in a minute. But what I just want to say is that your mood is a major factor into your emotional health. And this is the reason why I always speak about how therapy and finding a platform in which can guide you through is very important. It's important because if you're not trying to find the right tools in order to help your mood, in order to help your emotional state, what's going to happen is that it's going to start to impact other parts of your life. And that's where it starts to really get, for me in my personal situation, that's when it really starts to possibly affect your long term family environment. Because for me, it started to affect my family environment of then my partner feeling that your mood is such in a negative space that it was destroying our union. So, we're going to go and talk about more about the mood changes. Specifically, we're going to talk about the stress factor, the depression, the anxiety, and really getting into what exactly is happening with the body. Because I think it's very important that we need to understand the reason why you may be on medication, or the reason why you're in therapy, or the reason why you're feeling the way that you're feeling. I think a lot of times when we are suffering from these, stress, depression, anxiety, and other things that may be going on, honestly, we don't understand what's going on in the body. We're getting the aftermath of, okay, we are feeling fatigue, or we're having a headache, or our heart is racing, or all these things are going on. But I think it's very important that we understand the underlying factors, because once we understand the underlying factors, then we can find the tools in order to help us get through whatever that we may be going through at that time. So, what I have here is that when you have stress, depression, anxiety, this part here is when I did this research, guys, I was like, wow. I never realized how the body pretty much performs within itself, I guess you can say. And it makes sense on the reason why doctors, family and friends try to advertise and explain, okay, maybe you should try this, or maybe you should, do this activity, or whatever. I could better understand now that I'm looking, and did my research this week. So, let's look at cortisol. So, cortisol is the body's stress hormone. So, specifically, it communicates with the brain that controls your mood, your motivation, and your fear, right? Now, this part here is the most craziest part when I researched this. When you are stressed and have anxiety, it can increase 9 times than when you are relaxed. Can you believe that, guys? So I'm gonna read that one more time. When you are stressed, you have anxiety, even if you when you have depression, your cortisol can increase 9 times than when you are relaxed. So pretty much cortisol is located, if I'm not mistaken, I believe it's above the kidneys. That hormone is released throughout the body. And when that hormone is released throughout the body, I'm assuming that it travels, throughout the body to the brain and etc. I'm not as, into science or anything like that. When your body is stressed, you have too much cortisol running through your body. So then what happens is that you start to have your headaches. You start to have your heart beating out your chest. You start to what I spoke about before, you may eat a large amounts of food. And or you may not eat anything at all. Because the cortisol is pushing through your body, you may not sleep. So it's like, wow, this makes sense now. Like, this makes sense on what is going on in the body. Now the same thing happens, and I'm gonna get into that a little bit later on the reverse side. I'm gonna get into that in a minute, but let me go ahead and talk about adrenaline. Adrenaline is another one of the body stress hormones. It prepares your body for fight or flight. So I said, okay, what is fight or flight? Fight or flight is a physiological reaction in a situation that is stress, frightening, where you prepare your body to fight or flee. But I'm like, fight or flee, this makes so much sense on reason of why I feel like sometimes I think for me this works hand in hand, where depending on the particular situation, I'm so angered by the situation that I just don't I don't know how to resolve it, but I'm so upset. But then at the same time, of not wanting to face what I need to face, but then also wanting to fight the situation because I'm mad that I'm going through the situation that I'm going through. So, I have here, but it lets you just think about, how much is factored into your mental health and basically how you are stable. The fact of the matter is that you're trying to maintain a stable internal body environment. And when you are stressed, when you are depressed, when you have anxiety, when all the cortisol is running through your body and all the adrenaline is running through your body, how do you think that is affecting your mental health? That means that your mind is basically racing. So those situations, like for me, where I'm sitting there and I don't know what to do, my body is not able to really think about how to resolve the situation because I'm all over the place. Mentally, I'm all over the place. It's like being faced with standing in front of a door with no knob. That's what it feels like. And I'm trying to get through the door, trying to get a crowbar, trying to kick it in, trying to do whatever to get through this door, but I can't get through because all it needs is a knob and there's no knob there. That's pretty much what it feels like. So now I spoke about cortisol and I spoke about adrenaline. Now there's also a such thing as cortisol deficiency, which can cause depression. Because let's not forget about that depression. That depression likes to kick in there as well too. And too much stress can also increase cortisol secretion, leading to depression. So it's kind of like, damn if you do, damn if you don't. You have too much cortisol, then that can lead to depression. You don't have enough cortisol, and that can lead to depression. So it's like very important for the reason of why therapy, meditation, yoga, all these things that's out there that can be utilized to keep you in a sound mind, again, sound body, where eternally you're feeling comfortable is very, very, very important. Because it seems like too much of something or too little of something, honestly, is not good. I'm gonna be honest with you based on this research. So with that being said, last week I spoke about some of the tools and therapies and things that can be used. And I'm a big advocate of therapy more than medication. And the crazy thing is like this week I had went to a doctor's appointment and I was speaking to my primary care doctor about, therapy. And one of the things that she said to me, and it was like, aha, this makes sense. This lets me know that I'm not crazy is she was like, in conjunction to medication, it's very important that you seek out therapy. She was like, she was like, medication is pretty much to give you over the hurdle, but therapy is actually to get you through it, to get you to the finish line, pretty much. And I was like, oh wow. I was like, that makes sense. And now I guess you could say I understand more so the reason of why medication and therapy works hand in hand together. And I hope that me discussing it and everything like that, that you guys can better understand it. And I'm not saying, okay, yeah, go ahead and pop a pill or anything like that. But if it's something that you need to get over that hurdle, then you have to do what you have to do, especially if what you're going through is affecting the people in your surroundings, because that is not only is it affecting yourself when you start to hurt the people that is around you that want to help you, that's when it really changes things up because the last thing that you want to do is I want to say is push the people away, and I feel like for me in the beginning when I was going through anxiety and the stress, that is what I was doing, guys. I was pushing everybody away because I was unwilling to face what I needed to face. Okay. So In conjunction to some of the other therapies that I had mentioned last week, I had spoke about problem solving therapy, cognitive behavior therapy. I have here, let me see, I have here cognitive remediation therapy is another one of them. I wanted to focus on some of the therapies that you can use for emotional health, and making sure that is where it's supposed to be. So we have here dialectical behavior therapy. So I'm gonna say that one more time. Dialectical behavior therapy. So this helps people control, maintain their emotions by being mindful and accepting uncomfortability through their thoughts and their feelings. So if you are feeling like, okay, this situation that I'm facing is uncomfortable, my thoughts and feelings are very uncomfortable. This basically teaches you how to control them and maintain them. Now, one of the things that I started to notice when I was looking at these therapies is that you can use them in unison with each other. Like they can, maybe not unison, but maybe that's is the right term. But you can overlap different type of therapies. Because the fact of the matter is, like, you have to face whatever situation that you're going through, but also at the same time, you have to find the tools in order to use it. And also at the same time, it's solution based. It's you have to resolve whatever it may be, whatever you may be facing, you know? So, in conjunction to dialectical behavior therapy, I have here solution focused therapy, which means moving a person closer to positive outcomes. And then I got here also psychoanalysis or psychodynamic therapy. So this focuses on changing the thoughts and behaviors by finding the underlying unconscious motivation and meaning. And this one is very prominent in the therapy that I have, is being able to understand, okay, why are you feeling this particular way? What is the unconscious feeling that you are exuding into your consciousness that's making you behave in the way that you don't want to behave? Why do you have fear of facing this situation? What is unconsciously has impacted you to make you fearful of facing this situation? So I could say 100% this is the type of therapy, or one that is one of the therapies that my therapist utilized with me is understanding those unconscious feelings. And also, again, he used the dialectical behavior therapy and being uncomfortable with it, being uncomfortable that, hey, once you know that this is the situation, saying, okay, how I feel sound and how I feel, then yes, it's uncomfortable, but how am I going to turn this from a situation that I'm uncomfortable with to now I'm facing the situation so that I could be able to get past what I'm going through so that I'm not jeopardizing myself, or I'm not underlining. I want to say, I was going to say underlining, but I am not pushing my stresses onto things that doesn't need to be pushed onto. But guys, I really do hope that this episode helped. I know that this was a lot of definition based type conversation, but like I said before, I really wanted to get down to like the nitty gritty and understanding what these terms means, what tools we can utilize in order to help us through how we are feeling, and just be able to offer some type of assistance, because at the end of the day, I know that we do not want to feel the way that we are feeling. So it's like, okay, this is again how I'm feeling. How am I going to face it? And what solutions am I going to use to face this situation? Hey everyone, thank you for listening to the podcast. So let's get into today's word. So, guys, I want to go ahead and get into today's word, which is kindness. And that means the quality of being friendly. And then I have some synonyms for you. So we have here decency, goodwill, grace, patience, courtesy, and understanding. So that is today's word, kindness. So be kind to yourself. Be kind to others. Be kind to when you think people are treating you, crappy, and you're like, you know what? I'm just going to kill you with kindness. Because at the end of the day, you're not going to take on that energy. You're not going to be like that person. I know that you are not that person. Treat yourself with kindness. I know that can be hard, and we just want to, sometimes we just think we should punish ourselves. No, don't punish yourselves. You don't deserve to treat yourself in that way. You know that at the end of the day you're doing the best that you can do with what you know. So be kind to yourself. Don't beat yourself up. Pull yourself up. That's what you should be doing. Giving yourself patience, treating yourself with decency, giving yourself grace, okay? Understanding that it's okay to feel how you feel. At the end of the day, things will get better, okay? So, guys, that is where I'm going to end this week's podcast episode. Again, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode and you got something out of it. I know that I definitely got something, learned more about myself and why I am the way that I am, why my brain works the way that it works. Okay. So, guys, stay blessed out there in those streets. Make sure that you treat others kindly out there in those streets. And God willing, I will see you guys in the next week's podcast episode. And next week's podcast episode, just to let you know, we are going to be speaking about behavioral health. So, I hope that you're here for next week. So, stay blessed, and I'll talk to you later. Thank you for listening to Reflection by Abia. Let me know in the comments section what you thought about today's episode and share the podcast with your friends and family. The link will be available in the show notes.